We average 1.7 million pounds of noodles. 1.7 million pounds of noodles.
Marc, you know what I'm going to say.
Don't do it.
You know what I'm going to say, Marc.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's oodles and noodles.
Welcome to Restaurant 365 Presents Behind the Numbers, a show where we talk to restaurant owners, operators, chefs, kitchen managers, CFOs, and everyone in between about what makes successful restaurants tick. Before we get started, a quick reminder to like and subscribe to the show wherever you are watching or listening, and please consider leaving a review. It helps us continue to bring you these incredible guests and conversations while growing and supporting our amazing restaurant community. And with that, I'm your host, Marc Cohen.
And I'm Rich Sweeney. And we are stoked today to be here with Rebecca Stewart, VP of Technology at HuHot Mongolian Grill, which is just one of my favorite ones to say because it's HuHot. Rebecca, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, guys. My name is Rebecca Stewart. As Rich mentioned, I'm the Vice President of Technology at HuHot Mongolian Grills. We're a 53-unit concept that does amazing, fresh Mongolian barbecue, Mongolian grill. So I love the outdoors. I spend a lot of time with my 4 kids, but I am a nerd for numbers and love all things technology.
All right. Love it.
Hashtag nerd for numbers.
Yeah, let's get data drunk. Let's
100%.
go. Rich, you almost were channeling your inner Al Pacino there for a second. You said,
that was what I was going for. You couldn't read my amazing imitation? No? Okay. Yeah. That's why I host a podcast and I'm not out winning an Emmy.
On point. Well, Rebecca, thanks for joining us today. We always like to start with sort of a fundamental big question. And that is, what do you think is the most important thing that you do in your restaurants, day to day, week to week? Or what do you think that owners, operators, what should they be focusing on right now?
I think it's all about supporting our people. It's all about making sure that they have the tools to serve the guest. At the end of the day, the guest matters, and giving our frontline folks all of the tools, everything they need to successfully take care of those guests, provide hospitality. And it doesn't matter whether you're 1 unit, 100 units, 1,000 units, providing that experience for your guests. And that starts with the team.
Love it. And so you're VP of Tech, but you've been in hospitality, I think, a very long time.
A very long time, 20 plus years in hospitality. I come from the operations side of things. I've worked for big corporate concepts. I've worked for startups. I was a corporate employee of a big regional brand that grew here from Boulder. And I've done it all. But everything I do has that operations mindset. Tech is amazing and I love it, but it only works if it works for the operators.
Absolutely agree with that. What was your first job in a restaurant, out of curiosity?
I worked at Panera Bread. I was in college. I needed a job, and I showed up at a trailer outside of a new Panera that was opening up. I was not prepared to interview. I just showed up. I needed a job, and that started my career in restaurants. Very quickly became part of the training team and a manager, and kind of worked up the food chain at Panera. I was there for close to 10 years.
Wow.
But it started with a random Wednesday where I needed a job and fell in love with restaurants there. Wasn't studying hospitality. Studied linguistics in college, so nothing applicable. But that's where it all started.
10 years.
That's how they always get you in, right? Like they just randomly happen to be showing up somewhere, slide in, and then they do the whole, hey, you're really good at it. Why don't we make you a trainer? Why don't we make you a lead?
Yes.
Why don't we make you a manager? And 20 years later, you're
exactly.
like, this was supposed to be a part-time job, and now I can't get out of the industry.
And I've fallen in love with it. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I've worked for big tech, kind of on the restaurant peripheral, but I always come back. I always end up back in hospitality and in restaurants. It's
another Al
it is
Pacino
in my
reference.
DNA.
Keep trying to get out. They keep pulling me back in.
I mean, that's like Marc and I, right? Like you get out of the operation in the day-to-day, and now we're just working for a restaurant software company. You're never fully out of the game.
No. No. And if you never see another bread bowl again, I'm sure you're fine with that.
Oh, I'm totally fine with that. Cutting the bread bowls. I have a little PTSD from that.
I'm sure they have a robot for that now. Well, hey, let's talk about a little bit technology wise. You've been using Restaurant 365 now for how long?
About 8 or 9 years almost.
Yeah.
We've been with the brand for a long time. I've watched Restaurant 365 grow from an accounting platform that was great to an all-in-one, kind of has everything, checks all the boxes. And, even in the last couple of years, it seems like we're adding more pieces, we're adding more tools. And I love that. I'm all about having a one-stop shop. Our managers don't need to be going to a dozen different places. But yeah, I've really watched the Restaurant 365 grow as our brand has grown and figured out how to use it a lot more. But it has gotten cooler and smarter and more techy. But yeah, I mean, Marc was my implementation person many moons ago.
We've got history.
we stuck together now. Here, you're stuck with me. There you go.
Well, and to your point, you've grown with us as well. How many locations do you have now?
We've got about 55 locations, a mix of corporate and franchise. But yeah, it's started as a family owned, or still family owned, but started as one location. Was the dream of the matriarch and patriarch of the family. And now the next generation runs everything, runs marketing, runs the business operations. But it's a really cool brand to be a part of, and keeps a lot of that family feel that started 26 years ago as a dream.
26 and still family owned, you said. That's incredible.
Still family owned. Yeah, still family owned. So we're from Missoula, Montana. Not a lot of Mongolian grills in Missoula, Montana. But it was a great idea, and our family came from the pizza business, and as dine-in pizza was kind of changing, they knew they needed to find something fun, and got a bunch of other family members together and some friends and started, and that grew into the first big franchise group. And now we have kind of two big groups and then a lot of great single, double operators who are fantastic that keep that brand alive.
So you went from pizza to noodles. How many pounds of noodles did you serve last year?
It is staggering. I had to do the math multiple times to really make sure. We average 1.7 million pounds of noodles across our brand. And that is some cooked numbers, some raw numbers. So I know that all the operators are going to want to know what's the yield, all those pieces. But yeah, 1.7 million pounds of noodles. And that's not even counting an LTO we ran that would have added some more noodles to that. Just core noodles, the 3 core noodles. Yeah.
Marc, you know what I'm going to say.
Yep.
You know what I'm going to say, Marc? It's oodles and noodles.
It is oodles.
It really
and
is. It is oodles and noodles.
And does anybody want to guess what report Rebecca used to get those numbers?
I feel like I might know it, but I don't want to give it away.
Starts with an A and ends with a VT.
And it's my favorite report of all reports, and gave me that number so quickly, which was great.
So still family owned. Now it's what generation are we on in terms of who's running the company now? Are the children of the founders now in charge of the ownership?
Yep. So it's children of the founders, and then some of their kids also are involved in actually mostly in data and things like that. So a couple of our current CEO's kids are college aged, and they help run a lot of numbers and produce reports. And someday I think they will probably be the future as that next generation passes the torch. Yeah.
It's gone are the days of coming up, family restaurants and you're bussing tables. Now it's you're breaking down data tables instead.
Yeah, you're crunching.
Now, to be fair, some of the others have worked in the restaurants too. So everybody has pulled their weight and done their part.
Got to get in there. So you got to get up in the noodle.
The noodle puns are strong today.
We're going to noodle around with it.
Yeah.
How many noodle puns
tend to count how many bad food puns Rich can make. And so, I wouldn't imagine, to your point, that a Mongolian concept would thrive in sort of the Midwest, but clearly it's a hit, right? People love this place.
People love it. The Midwest is our bread and butter. I don't know. I tried to make a noodle joke there. I'm not as good as you are, Rich. It is our best part of our concept is in the Midwest. We have really, really strong restaurants through Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Wisconsin, kind of that center segment. It does help that we are a fantastic all-you-can-eat concept. So it's great. You can come in and everybody at the table gets to make their own food exactly the way they want it. So my husband makes his fiery and spicy, and I can barely breathe the plate sitting next to me. My kids, they have their thing. They like it a certain way. They're a samurai teriyaki and sweet and sour sauce all the way. And I am personally a shoyu black pepper, which is seasonal and coming back. And I did a 3 cheers for that one. But everyone can make their food exactly the way they want and as many times as they want. So really, sky's the limit. You can make it really fresh and healthy. You can make it really protein filled. It's the concept that's perfect for everyone.
That explains the 1.7 million pounds of noodles.
That does. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it's so customizable. So you can have that picky eater in the group who can just get exactly what they want, just their noodles and butter, or be able to get something else mixed together. So I had to throw that one in there too, Marc. You knew it.
There you go.
Well, and you have technology in your title, so obviously that is your passion. I know you're clearly passionate about your food because I can tell the way you talk about it. But at the end of the day, I know you do like your numbers, and I'm curious, sort of, the tech landscape in restaurants. We're always talking about how much it's changed over the last decade, but I feel like in the last 2 years now, with the advent of AI and all these new tools that are surfacing, how have you been sort of adapting those into your workflows?
I think that there has been a massive amount of change in the last couple of years. And I think we have been very cautious in throwing too much of that on our teams. Again, their job is to make the noodles. They don't need a ton of cool and fancy systems that someone in the desk says, oh, well, this is so great. So for me, it's about understanding how is this going to make the lives of our operators easier? How is it going to get them more information, better information? So there are places where we are using it a ton. We use it in our training material building. We use it in helping our teams respond to guests. That can be a really challenging. How do you write an email when someone has just yelled at you and you feel very personal about what you've done? It helps with folks that are maybe speaking another language. We have a lot of folks that are English is not their first language, even at the management level. And so using AI to give them tools to be able to help them serve the guests is great. I personally use AI for everything. I think it's a fantastic tool to find and gather information. I use it to process data all the time. Here I have these 3 exports. Fill in the blank. I need this information. Could I come up with it in a spreadsheet? Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes I do because I like spreadsheets. It's just, I'm a nerd. But it can help me take data that would take an afternoon to process and at least get me 75% of the way, or help me write code, help me write things in order to be able to process that, help me with queries, things like that. I think it's an amazing tool. I caution folks that it isn't a solution to everything. We don't just throw it out there on our people. We have to make sure that it's getting them what they need. And sometimes they don't need all of that data. Sometimes they don't need all of that power. They can get kind of paralyzed and lost in that. And so we've been cautious in how we've kind of thrown it out there. But I also like to call it automation because some people aren't so keen on AI.
Right.
But when you call it automation, it suddenly becomes a little bit different and much more well received to the non-AI folks out there.
You've
And
rebranded
it's automation.
Yeah,
I
smart.
have, yeah.
Well, I love at
technique.
I love at the store level that you're using it as like a communication tool almost, right? Like that's a really great use case for it that I don't think we've really had come up on the show before.
Yeah, it's a fantastic one. And I think you can help. It's a collaborative thing. AI helps your team write, but you help AI understand what your brand voice should be. And with those together, you can create a really great way to communicate. It helps.
And just for fun, I asked AI, or I asked automation, how many miles is 1.7 million pounds of noodles? It's 122,000 miles of noodles. That's 5 times around the earth, or halfway to the moon.
That's insane. That's insane. AI also helped me calculate my 1.7 number too, just in full transparency. And I like to kindly refer to my AI as Sarah Connor, because I just feel so. Let me ask Sarah Connor. And some people get it and some people don't, but it feels a little tongue in cheek. And so, Sarah Connor helped me with those numbers.
I've told this story before, but Rich, we had a pop-up when AI was first sort of bubbling up in app that asked our 365 users, like, how do you feel about artificial intelligence? And one response we got from a manager was Skynet. That was all they wrote. So they would definitely get your joke about Sarah Connor.
That could have been one of my managers.
It might have been you.
Sure. It potentially could have been me now that I think about it. Yeah.
We're pulling the surveys. We're going to find out who put that in.
We can peek behind.
I like it.
So we're really focused this year on this, transformation, right? Our big push this year is to transform our restaurants. And you've been doing some transforming in your restaurants this past year. You've really kind of not just about the AI and the technology piece, but you've really sort of doubled down on benchmarking systems and sort of ways to catch anomalies. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we have over the last year especially focused a lot on benchmarking, on employee performance, on discounting, on sales, on appetizer sales. If it's a number that you can look at, we're probably looking at it. And we've taken all of that data and decided what we think is that right number, is that kind of benchmark, whether it's a red flag or whether it's a performance piece. We are really transparent with our teams down to the store level teams. We publish this data. We publish rankings every week. We share those. And we use those in a lot of restaurants as a tool. It's kind of the carrot or the stick. We like it to be that carrot, but, you'd like to have the schedule you'd pick? Well, you need to be in this band of performance for the following pieces. Sometimes it's a focus on an LTO. We change, right? You can't focus on everything at once,
no.
But we do run that data and we look at it to understand where our opportunities are and also to understand where there might be some red flags. It started with looking at loyalty. That was the original, where are the red flags? Because it's one of those places where the team can take advantage. They can add points. They can do all kinds of things that I wouldn't have ever thought to do. And it is constantly evolving what people will do to take advantage, to fudge things a little, to increase their tips, to give away food, to do all of those things. We know it happens. It's happening in every restaurant. And if it's not happening in your restaurant, you're just not seeing it happen in your restaurant.
You just don't know about
it. Is. It's there. And creating that kind of culture where, hey, we're looking at this. We see these things. From the get-go, it gives people a little bit of pause. Like, they're going to look at this data. And if my numbers are way off, somebody's going to notice. And I think it has helped us drastically. It was something we first started doing in our corporate locations. And then we started helping some of our franchisees who are running single operations. They don't have the same scope of business understanding in some cases, and they have this level of trust with their employees that you maybe can't always have. But just watching, hey, we should look at this discount report. Hey, we should run these automated reports. This is going to run every week. Anybody that falls above this threshold, you should be asking questions. Just ask questions and go from there. It's not accusatory. It's not saying that anybody is specifically doing something, but increasing top line sales by suggestive selling, by offering the steps of service the way we want, by offering appetizers, that's one piece of it. And then at the other end, it's stopping people from stealing in a variety of ways. It's looking at voids, it's looking at refunds, it's looking at all of those pieces and saying, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable, and figuring out where that line is. And for some sales bands, it might be here, and some it might be here, but really looking at that and creating those benchmarks of what those, they're KPIs really, and looking at what they are and deciding, it's usually kind of quarterly where we reevaluate and say, hey, the team has made a great amount of progress in this category. Where's our new low-hanging fruit? We still talk about what we've been successful with, but we find something new to really put that focus on. And I think that has helped, really increase top-line sales in a challenging economy. Like, let's be honest, sales are hard. And I think restaurants are seeing that in many cases. And, you can take price, but what if you also just increase your per check average? It's a really easy way to nudge those numbers up, and sales solve a lot. And so, everyone always says sales solve everything. I don't quite think sales solve everything.
Not quite everything, but pretty close.
But they do. They really can help give you a little bit more room. And some of that can just be incremental sales. And at the end of the day, that has been a huge, huge needle mover for our brand.
Because at a certain point, we just can't keep raising menu prices, right? You've got to find other ways to sort of move the needle. And I think you're absolutely right. In increasing check average, increasing frequency, super critical right now into driving that top line revenue up. What sort of reporting are you using for some of this? I'm curious. Most of it's coming through Restaurant 365?
Yes, we use a ton of reporting through our 365. I build a lot of ad hoc reports. They're really my playground. It allows you to find the metrics that you're looking for and kind of put them together in a way that gives you data that makes sense. Different stakeholders across the brand want to see different things. Yep. And so it allows you to really, for me, I love building a report and then teaching folks across the brand how to use it. Here's where you go. Here's how you enter, whatever you want to run. And then you can see that data yourself. Not everybody is going to be in there building ad hoc reports. There's a couple folks in my brand who are pretty good at it. But if you want information, you give me I'd like this. I'd like to understand this as compared to last year, as compared to other menu categories. And it's a great way to kind of aggregate that data. Yes, I could run it in the point of sale. Our reporting is getting better in some, we use Toast, and I love Toast. I'm a huge advocate of Toast. I think it's fantastic. I actually just helped the small business that my husband and I own move over to Toast as well. Oh, wow. But it's a great brand, but their enterprise level reporting has had some room for improvement, has gotten a lot better. But I know how to do it in our 365, and that's kind of my place where I go. So I love it. I think it's a great, those ad hoc reports are great. But oftentimes after I go to any of the conferences, I always hear about other reports. And then there are so many. And you could spend weeks just going through and like, oh, what does this do? Oh, what does that do? But I have
That's what
found
we do for the conferences.
a lot.
We just try to find new reports that people never run. And we're like, we're just going to talk about these and watch the usage go up.
Well, and I think, honestly, that to me, sometimes that's one of the best parts of these conferences is you go and you hear a couple of things, or someone in a breakout session will bring up one thing, and then someone in the room starts, and it's this effect where the snowball effect, and you find all of these things, and then that changes the way that you're able to run data. But I like looking at all kinds of things. Are we always using this data in the decisions we're making? No, but it's great data to have. And sometimes on the fifth or sixth time of saying, look at this cool data, someone else in operations or otherwise goes, oh, that's really neat. Maybe we should do that. So it's all about having that information. And, they can only do so much. They've got a limited bandwidth with their staff and all of the pieces. So I can say, oh, this data tells this story. It's about what kind of pieces they can change with that data.
And go ahead, Rich.
I was going to say, I think too, like with the fact that you're layering in AI for looking at all of that data, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's the analysis paralysis of, I have so much information, but I don't know what to do with it. You're at least giving them some tools that are like, hey, here's the data and here's what that means. Like you said, you're not just kind of telling them a story. You're actually showing them how to follow the story along, which is going to take them from being, a good manager to being an amazing operator.
Yes. And I think that's something that's really cool about all this new AI that the platform is starting to roll out in Restaurant 365 is it feels more geared towards restaurant managers to be able to get data, to get information, to be driven towards where they need to go and have those questions answered. I'm great with complex AI and using it as a tool. But if you have 2 minutes in the office between sending someone on a break and taking care of this and putting out this fire, being able to ask the platform that has the data, hey, I'm curious about this. Help me, show me, so that next time I know where this is. I think that is an invaluable tool. The information is only as good as being in the hands of our operators. So I'm really excited about that. I think it's a really Janine and team, I'm really excited about the things I've sort of sneak previewed, and some of the stuff that's out as well. So yeah, it's exciting. I think it's going to be great for operators.
Right. We've got the data. Tell me what to do with it. Tell me how to act on it. Right.
Yes.
But some of the reporting you're doing is you said you automated some of it. So have you set up subscriptions for some of these reports so they don't have to go looking for them?
Yep, absolutely. So lots of subscriptions. I think what's great about the subscription piece is that you can customize it to send information to the right people. Right. So while everybody might need a specific report, we use a lot of labor reporting, labor versus schedule. That's a great example. The store needs to see their own. The regional manager needs to see their region.
Right.
The VP of Ops needs to see everybody. And then folks at the corporate level may or may not actually open the email, but they also need to see a different kind of load map of stores. And so especially with our corporate and franchise world, that helps too. We do franchise polling, so we pull data, not to the same extent that we pull the data in our own corporate stores, but folks on the corporate side don't necessarily need that, and it can become a distraction. So the subscriptions are great. It's a set it and forget it, although sometimes I forget how to unset it, and then there's a whole like, hey, support, remind me how I do this, and you click here and you do this. So but yeah, I do a lot of subscription reporting. I think it's fantastic.
And sort of the big outcome this past year has really been sort of this fraud detection piece. And I think you're using the Flash report for that? Yes.
So Flash report is huge for us. It is the place, the moment anything goes wrong, who reads Flash report, because you get a bunch of emails that, hey, this data doesn't quite look right. But Flash is huge for us. It has, it's probably got 40 columns in it of data. And everybody can look at their specific piece to understand, hey, are counts off? Were counts really high or really low? But from that fraud perspective, we're looking at things like voids. We're looking at discounts. We're looking at that very critically and very regularly. Every day, that information gets reviewed, not just by the store, not just by the regional, but also by folks at the corporate team. And so all of those eyes on that data helps us see when things are maybe happening before they become a huge liability. We don't like having to let folks go who are taking advantage of us, but it happens. It happens a lot, and it happens across, all levels. And I think sometimes folks, I don't know, they think they're not going to get caught, or they think they're smarter than the system. But that data,
Always think they're smarter than the system.
It's really black and white, and I remember hearing this probably, I don't know, 15 years ago, back in my original corporate days. Somebody at a, slideshow talked about how out of 10 people, at least 2 of them are walking in your back door with the intent of stealing from you. 2 of them will never steal. Salt of the earth. They're just never going to have a problem. But then there's that group in the middle, and they can be swayed either way. So you're looking at 50%, 60% or more of your staff is in some way maybe going to take advantage. So having that automated reporting that comes out, it's in your face, it takes a couple of minutes to look at, and everybody has their own piece that they're very focused on. But it has really helped us. The focus on that has helped us reduce theft and fraud really drastically in this last year. And I think that it has, that contributes directly to your bottom line. At the end of the day, it does. And then it contributes to the culture, and catching and removing people in a fairly hey, we know this happened and this person is being let go because they were stealing. I think it makes people think twice about making unscrupulous choices. And is it the same when someone makes themselves an extra egg roll as it is taking cash out of the drawer? No, but when we're looking at that reporting, it allows us to see hey, your egg rolls are 15% higher. Are your servers making themselves a snack? And allows us to really hone in on that across the board. So it's been huge. That reporting and that focus on making sure that people are being honest has been huge.
Yeah, being able to not only have the reporting and all that data, but again, leveraging AI, catch and call out on those little anomalies that kind of just might raise an eyebrow a little bit to be like, wait a minute, dial in the operation even tighter.
Yep. And we've paired that also with, cameras these days have gotten much more high tech. We have an amazing mix of, we weren't going to invest millions of dollars in high tech cameras that can capture every single corner of everything, but it's about getting your bang for your buck on that. So we use a fantastic camera system that allows us to track people, track movement. It can help do some of the grill timing. So we're a concept that doesn't necessarily have a screen where you're bumping tickets, but we need to understand how long the guests are waiting for their food. What are those ticket times? There's still time to make food. So we've been able to leverage this camera system. It was a big project that I was really excited about. But it's able to say okay, at this point in the grill, how long from food going on to food coming off, and then it produces data for us. We do still have some manual watching and providing okay, let's count and all of that, but we can do it all remotely. Managers can look at and watch that through these cameras that are very high def. It's all cloud-based, but it helps us use that data. It's another data point. It's that kind of balance of the numbers are great, but also the visual of being able to see what's happening and report back on that is huge as well.
Yeah, I love this idea. So you've got the cameras, for security purposes and for fraud catching, but you're also using them for speed of service, which is fantastic, right? Like what a fun use case. That just doubles the ROI of that investment. I always tell people, if you haven't invested in a camera system, I feel like even if just at a fraud level, it will pay for itself. I guarantee it.
Absolutely. The cameras are, and there's so much cool AI tech. I have to reel myself back on some of that. But, we have looked at heat mapping to understand, is there a place on so in essence, we have kind of what looks like a salad bar where you're making your food. So you're picking the raw ingredients, you're loading them into a bowl, and then you're loading your sauces in there. But this heat mapping that we aren't using actively, but is very cool, is something that you can see. Are people stopping at a certain point? Is it creating backups? Because you see people, do we need to put 2 pans of noodles on the line here instead of just one? Because then people can get their food faster. Understanding how that kind of flow can really helps with how you, in essence, menu engineer. Our menu just happens to look more like a salad bar. Some really cool stuff out there that you have to decide what's important. And that one wasn't going to move the needle, but was still something that I have it's somewhere back here, and we'll roll it out eventually.
It's not going to move the needle yet, but don't worry, you're going to get to nerd out on the numbers. We're going to get we'll talk about this next year, and you'll be like, guys, the heat map initiative is in full force. We're getting rid of bottlenecks. We're getting noodles flying out the door.
Yes. And there you go. It's got to be like 15 on noodles there, Rich.
for your concept, that's another important KPI, right? We talked about guest average and frequency, but throughput, right? Like the more people we can get through during a rush, the more money we're going to make, right? So I think that's a critical thing you should be looking at. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so this benchmarking internally, has it sort of created some healthy competition now? Or people really, you sort of gamified it a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. So there is our regional manager team. They are great and they are very competitive. So they are looking at how their teams are performing and creating their own initiatives. They're the 2 regional managers that we have at our corporate stores, very different culturally. They work in very different ways, but it works really well for their teams. But man, that competition, it can heat up. And I think it really drives excitement at the team level. I think in many ways, the team wants their group to come out at the top. And there is a lot of friendly competition within teams, within regions, across the brand. And even with the franchisees, everybody wants to be that kind of top dog. And so folks look at how are we doing it here? How's this group doing it? And what are ways that we can improve our own performance to kind of nudge ahead and be that first in line?
I keep trying so hard to work a way to find low main into this, the low main performer, but the low part keeps throwing me off when it comes to competition. Trying too hard for that one.
You'll wake up in the middle of the night and have like some sort of noodle joke, I'm sure.
And then you'll be Uber eating some noodles to your house.
There you go, right?
So let's talk about 2026 in terms of how we're transforming the business. What's other than heat mapping and throughput? What else are we working on for this year?
I think a big part of what we're continuing to do is really work on that bench, is having the right players in place so that when we have folks promoted, when we have movement, that we can have that seamless move into place where our leaders are ready. And, it's not just about having strong GMs. It's about having strong assistant managers. It's about having strong shift leaders and about making sure that career path is really understood. So we have started, and I think this is something we're just continuing to really focus on, but is helping even our entry-level employees understand this is where you can go. These are the opportunities. You can be a trainer. You can be a shift leader. You can be a manager. You can be part of all of these different kind of roles along the way. And I think it helps sometimes to understand that maybe this started as a part-time job, but in 20 years, maybe you'll be sitting as a VP of technology somewhere because you followed this career path. And the restaurant industry is an amazing place to have a career. It can provide, I firmly believe it can provide anyone with any skill set an amazing career. And helping young people understand that, especially young people, but helping anyone in that sort of entry level roles understand that there is a future here. There is a place here. This isn't just your summer job while you wait for your internship to go do something else, but this can be it. And so, we've really invested in our training program. We've continued to take it from some binders and some notebooks of 5 years ago to a fully online, automated, tracked videos, quizzes, games. We've made it really fun and exciting, and we also show how you can go, okay, you're doing great at this. What's your next step? Maybe it's being certified to be able to do fires on the grill, which is this big, cool, fun, this grill. It's a 8-10 foot wide, big stainless grill. It has a hole where the dragon in the middle lives, and you can shoot fire. But you have to know what you're doing, or you'll set off the Ansel system, and it's a whole thing. But helping make it exciting. It's dinner and a show. We're not just coming here for kind of, let's have some stir fry. Like, you can make stir fry at home, but it's about that excitement. And so keeping the teams engaged and giving them opportunities to learn new skills, to cross-train, to kind of move up. That's really huge for us this year. We are also really focused on some fun new LTOs. We did a huge marketing survey with existing customers and really asked them, like, what do you love about HuHot and what would you love to see? And so we are really, part of our big focus here in 2026 is taking what they've said and making that happen. So it's going to be some really cool, fun initiatives with the marketing team. Lots of new food that's LTO based, some cool stuff with social media. So we're really just embracing all of that, but it's going to be an exciting year. 2026 is starting off with a bang, and I think it's going to be a great year for HuHot.
I love this concept of a deep bench, right? Like that's so critical, right?
It's important. I mean, people, whether for whatever reason, whether it's internal, whether it's external, there's movement, and there is nothing worse than either getting a new GM that has or assistant manager that has no idea what they're doing.
Yes.
Or does things so differently because they came from somewhere else that the team loses all this stability. They lose all this ground that they've built, and it throws such a wrench in things. Yeah, so really creating that so that everything is smooth and easy. We want our staff to be happy, and having a new manager that tells you to do everything differently isn't the key for that. So really building that bench to have that consistency.
No one ever got happy by the new manager showing up and just ripping everything out and replacing it all over again.
No, not at all. And sometimes it's necessary, but for the most part, if we can do it right and make sure the teams have someone that can continue that positive flow, it just moves everything forward much faster.
Well, Rebecca, we always like to end these with a bit of a hot take on the industry. And I'm curious, what's your trigger item? What's your hot take in the restaurant industry? Or maybe it's something you love.
If QR codes could go away instead of real menus, that would be fantastic. I'm still stuck on that. There is nothing worse than going to especially a high-end restaurant and everything is classy. And they're like, here's a laminate with our QR code. Let's get your phone out. And then you're trying to. So I think there is a time and a place for QR codes, but man, just give me a beautiful menu and I will be so happy. But I think AI and automation, robotics. I think all of that is going to continue. Fast food is really starting to embrace it with drive-through ordering, with pieces like that. I think it's fantastic. I also think mobile ordering continuing to grow and be seamless as part of operations. I make personal decisions if I can order. I like my coffee ordered. I love ordering and having it just ready, and not having to sometimes interact, especially pre-coffee, with someone to get my coffee. So I think AI and automation, mobile, I think is going to continue to be a huge part. And if brands can get it right and make it easy and seamless, both for operators and for guests, I think that's going to be a huge success for any brand out there.
And Rich, we've seen with other guests on the podcast that drives check averages way up, right? When people can control the ordering experience, they just double down and add a bunch of stuff that they might not usually do at the counter, right?
Yep.
Customize, create, get all kinds of wonky and wild, and next thing you know, check average is going up and up.
Absolutely.
It's not low mang anymore. Anyway, okay. No more noodle puns. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a great conversation. You can find her on LinkedIn, and of course you can find HuHot Mongolian Grill locations across the country, as well as on all social media platforms.
And thank you all again for listening, checking out the pod. We hope you have a great shift, a great week, great quarter, wherever you and your restaurant may be. And don't forget, if you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean, and you can listen while you clean. So why not do it all together? Like and subscribe everywhere. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere that you listen. You can find us across all social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. And of course, you can always visit us at restaurant365.com. Rebecca, thank you so much. I can't wait to pad see you around. You said no more, but I had to get one more.
That was perfect. I love it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thanks.